Good afternoon. Afternoon, YouTube. Make sure I'm coming through okay. Hey, Paul, Tian, how you doing? How's everybody doing? Hope you're okay. Hope you're winning trades. Hope you're winning more than me. Nick, how you doing, mate? You okay? So, yes, Tian, I agree with you. Is it Tian? Is that how I pronounce it? Tian? Just so I know. I agree with you. Big day ahead. As we know, the inflationary fears have been in the market for quite some time. And the CPI data, if you don't know what CPI is, it's basically the cost, the average cost of a basket of goods and services, right? So it's essentially a measure of inflation. Now, I'll get the positions, the expectations actually here, so you can see it. There you go, little plug on my website. What day is it today? Thursday. So, core CPI today, UAE time 4:30. So, if you're in the UK, 3 hours behind us. The expectations is for 0.4%. Now, I was speaking to a mate of mine who believes that this is going to be poor, right? So, it's going to come out quite high, ultimately negatively affecting the market. I personally don't agree. I think... I mean, his argument was look at the commodity prices, etc. And I understand that argument. For me personally, again, this is just a bias. You know, it's really a red or black situation. You can look at commodities, but really the number that's going to come out is going to be a red or black Vegas situation, okay? I personally think, obviously we know if the number comes out higher than expected, the market is not going to like that. I think the market had a little bit of certainty when NFP came in. Around expectations, unemployment was good, but the numbers weren't too much to get those inflationary fears going. And you tell me if you disagree or you agree with this. Remember, it's every trader is different. Every trader has a different opinion. But I think a number around expectations the market will like. I think a bankability policy shift from 21st April made the CAD bullish. I expect the same today. Okay, yeah, let's see. Let's see. I think with this, so with the US dollar, with this CPI, just focusing on that for a second. I think a number within the expectations is the best scenario here. An expectations number, certainly nothing higher than expectations, possibly a number, a slight miss. I think the market will like it. And that's what I'm hoping for as a trader, because I think the stocks push, and certainly from my positions, it would be nice from my positions. We do have the ECB interest rate decision as well to be aware of at 3.45 for the euro. So just note that as well. And some jobless numbers. But certainly the CPI is the main one. Inflation's been on the mind for a lot of investors. And today will be a day where I think we get certain direction. Now, again, from a technical standpoint, and again, going back to the technicals, which is what I always like to do, I can give my biases, every day under the sun. It doesn't actually matter. All that matters is what I see on the charts. And it's still, as we expected, I did think maybe it was flirting with breaking. Ahmed, how you doing, mate? It was flirting with breaking these all-time highs yesterday. But, the market's not going to push that through prior to these numbers today, I don't think. Anyway, we're getting what looks to be a nice little, another retest of this B wave here. Possible hammer closer. This 4 hour will close in 1 hour from now. If we get a hammer here, could indicate, possible little movement upwards. But from a technical aspect, this chart looks okay. To the upside, my bias is still the same. I think we get a break above all-time highs. Possibly that 20 period is starting to curl up, just getting that pressure. Looks like a corrective for me. It all looks good. There's nothing there indicating at the moment, the commodities are coming off a little bit, that this shouldn't rise. But again, it depends on the data that comes out. However, I do think, in my personal opinion, that the markets prior to these these decent data news coming out, gives you a little clue. Right, and I do see that, and maybe if you go down, and this is what I noticed when I was staring at the charts all day, right, even down to the minute charts. is that sometimes the market gives you clues on which potential way it's going. Now, I could be completely wrong here. Like I said, I could be completely wrong. But from a technical standpoint, I'm seeing potential positivity today, maybe tomorrow. But let's see. That's my personal opinion. So I'll go through. I've just put in a trade. Yeah, correct, Nick. That's what I agree on as well. Everything about this looks a little bit better, certainly, than it did round here. I would be, anything can happen, but I certainly would be surprised if it fails. And I think any initial failure, possibly a dip buying opportunity. But for me, from a technical standpoint, I like it. Bullish on USD, no. I'll go into the dollar index, actually. I'll go in the dollar index now. So I think any strength in the USD will be sold into. Okay, we're roughly around this area again. USD is coming off a little bit. We have that 200. Any strength is being sold into ultimately, right? So if we get the same, possibly you could be heading for this, right? My bias for the USD is ultimately longer term negativity, longer term weakness, and that's just going with the trend. That's just going with the trend. There's nothing there, even on the daily, that's indicating to me that it wants to rise significantly. Yeah, we've had a hammer yesterday, so could it do this? Yeah, I think ultimately I see USD weakness into possibly into next week, I think. But we could get a rejection at this area. Could get a rejection of this area. So let's see. Yeah, agreed. Let's hope we're all right. Let's hope we're all right. So I've just entered, just talking from a trading perspective now. I won't go too much into this stream because I'm in 3 trades and I can't actually place another one in. I'll go through the ones I'm in. I'll go through the ones that I'm looking at that are kind of relevant for very close, and then we'll just wait for those numbers coming out. So this pound Aussie I entered in this morning on account of this V reversal. This is a nice setup. V reversal, good corrective, steady corrective here. Big bearish engulfer on a bit of volume. Another little reload at the level. Again, bearish engulfer at that 20. And look at this lowering volume during that accumulation phase. And I was happy to take that break here. Stop loss under here for TP at this area. So we've had a high volume break. Does it mean it's going to win? Does it mean it's going to lose? Maybe we come back to retest. Maybe it fails. But as per the setup, that's nice for me. It kind of ticks all the boxes. Certainly in the trading time frame. Now, from a daily perspective, I was looking at this long, right? There's different ways to look at it, right? You could look at this as a larger accumulation phase. Remember, accumulation phase here, distribution phase here. So what that means is accumulations, institution loading up in positions, right? To send a currency pair higher. Distribution, institutions distributing positions to send a pair lower. And you normally find it looks something similar to this. The other edge of the sword is, this is ranging, right? This is just simply ranging, going from highs to lows, lows to highs, etc. And maybe we get the same thing. However, for what I was looking at for longs, was, we had a decent breakthrough on a larger cup with handle structure. However, after this push, right, broken through the highs, immediately rejected, that shifted my momentum a little bit. Right, we've now closed underneath this resistance area, support area, failed support area, fake out you could call it. Closing under there, underneath the 20. For me, that's quite a nice trade. So the cup with handle prior was here, okay? So it's a much larger one, and it was actually a really nice one. So you see you've got cup with handle there, slight few bars and a breakout. So at that point in time, I was looking at longs as a breakout retest. However, with that shift, that push that was sold into, it's kind of shifted my momentum a little bit, or shifted my thoughts. And considering that I got this setup on the 4 hour, which for me that's an A-class setup, right? Fair enough, it's counter trend, but I have to take that setup. Like, I have to take it. And yeah, so that was my bias. Taking all those factors into account, I was happy selling the pound Aussie. Doesn't mean it's going to be right. I may be entering into a drawdown, although the three positions I have on are all open. I'll show the other one I'm in. Do you understand that, Tian? Did you see the cup with handle plus accumulation? Was that clear? Yeah. So I'm in this USD SEC as well. Okay, good. So USD SEC, as I talked about yesterday, I entered in. Looking at this break, so I was kind of on the fence, and this I was on the fence speaking. I actually speaking to you, Nick, about whether I was being too picky, waiting for another reload. But having analyzed it again after this whole structure, right, and the fact that we've got a decent accumulation phase prior to that break, I was okay taking it short. And the only way I was okay taking it short was if I increased my stop, right? Because I didn't have that phase where I could put the stop here and a breakout level. So I increased the stop because, I wanted to give it a little bit more room in case something like this happened. I didn't think it would happen to this extent, but possibly we could have got something like this here before going short. Anyway, the reason why it was okay for me to take, because this daily looked really nice, right? We had this trend line. Again, I don't really trade trend lines. However, I use them as confluence. We had this trend line here broken through. Rejection of that. The 20 period is close by. You could put a, head and shoulders here. The daily looked really nice. And this pair, USD SEC, one of its characteristics is when it moves, it really does move. You can get on the end of some price action that goes similar to gold, right? Once it goes, it gets momentum. Kind of like pound. Once it goes, it gets momentum. So that was okay for me to take there. Because really, if you look at that, right, it's a good period of accumulation. I mean, ideally, yes, if it was going to be an A star, it would be down here. But more often than not, you're not going to get A star. So I'm still in this. I do agree that any pushes in the USD will still be sold into. Possibly. I've kind of written this off, to be honest. I'm gonna consider this a loss just because, again, helps with my psychology. Possibly we've seen that momentum come to the upside. Maybe the USD starts to weaken off. I think we maybe get something like this before the news. Not to that extent, obviously, but I think we can get some downward direction. And if we break through, this slight ascending trend line, again, I don't really like using them, but this slight structure, possibly we start moving down again. And again, ideally, those numbers, the market likes it. I think if we get numbers that the market likes, I can see most of my positions playing off quite nicely. On the flip side, if it doesn't like it, I can see all of my positions getting stopped out. Anyway, that's the payoff. So the payoff for me today is potentially $12,000 or $12,000 loss. But let's see. That's trading, right? Okay, so ones I'm looking at today is I like JP225. There's actually none that I'm looking at right today, to be honest with you. This JP225, which I did add a breakout order in here, it didn't take, so I took that out. But taking this structure as a whole, again, we might be getting this. This is a better drawing here. Cut with handle, potentially another reload here to go long. The daily's starting to look a little bit better. We've tagged this descending area here, but possibly we're getting this to go long on this pair. Again, with these trend lines, a little bit of information for you. Normally I consider 2 touches tentative, 3 touches valid. But this for me does not count as a touch, right? Because that's essentially, some people count it as a touch. I don't. I need, this is number 1 and this is number 2. 2 touches for tentative, 3 touches for valid. Because for me, you don't know this trend line's here until you get this area, right? So why would you consider that a touch? It's just the creation of a trend line. But we can see that this, is starting to look a little bit better. And if we get a breakthrough from this larger kind of time frame uptrend, Larger time frame corrective. Yeah, I like that. I don't mind that at all. What else was I looking at? Pound New Zealand is still on the cards on this daily chart. On account of this, still waiting. What can happen here is we've got our V reversal. It's okay if this comes back and gives us our complex corrective, right? And which would probably turn into your head and shoulders, quasi head and shoulders pattern in order to go long. That's what I think may happen. Possibly could happen either way. You know, if it does end up breaking through here, that's what I need. And if it does fail, obviously it fails off. But in terms of a setup long, that's what I would be looking for. Unless it turns around now, then that's what I'm looking for pound New Zealand. Probably a trade for next week. Aussie dollar. Aussie dollar is another one that I like. After the USD had quite a significant 4-hour period here of a bit of strength. Basing pattern, ABC, push up, exactly the same thing, right? Traders were doing exactly the same thing and going long. And to be honest, there's nothing really, I'm not going to go into too much more because there's nothing really there for today. It's just a sit and wait for that 430 numbers. And I'll touch a little bit on psychology here because, I mean, if we look at this, right, this is where I am. And this is important, right? I took a trade, right? I'm down now 2%, 4,300, which is about 2% on this account. When I saw that pound Aussie, and bearing in mind I was down on both those, the Dow trade, and I was down on the USD SEC. Even though I saw this, you've got to be okay with taking it, right? And going into your mind that, okay, well, what if this loses? Then I lose 3 or 4, right? You've got to be okay with taking that. And I know that sometimes is difficult and you know, trusting, you know, I back myself to pick winners over the long run, right? You have to back yourself. And, you know, I know that I'm a decent enough trader to be able to get consistent returns. So backing yourself when these setups comes and not having the fear of not taking them, even though you're, you know, seems to be in a drawdown, which I'm not technically in a drawdown yet. It depends if I win or lose these trades. But this is, I think, during these little periods is kind of tough, even for me personally. Like, I hate sitting on my ass doing nothing. I love to take trades. But the past week and a half, 2 weeks actually, you know, you just had to sit on your bum. And then sitting on your bum, and when you eventually do take a trade and it loses, it's tough as well. So, yeah, I think for me personally, not that I'm over trading or revenge trading or anything like that. It's like if you're working, you sometimes get pissed off at your job, right? Sometimes you're like, oh, you know, fuck this. It's the same with trading. So now I'm like, Jesus, this is a horrible market, but you can't do anything about it. And when you see those setups, even when you're in a drawdown, you just got to have the confidence enough to know that, even, let's say, for example, I didn't take this because I was scared I was going to lose 2, and this ended up winning, I'd be annoyed with myself, right? So just having that confidence to be robotic and just going, taking it. Doesn't matter if you've lost 2 in a row. Take it. It's the law of large numbers. Anyway, I'm not going to keep you today. We'll do a very quick one and wait for those numbers to come out because I think that's what the market's going to wait for. Hopefully this pound Aussie does quite well. I quite like that trade. I still like USD SEC. I still like the Dow. And let's hope for a nice profit towards the end of the week. All right, guys, appreciate you coming, and I'll see some of you, I guess, in the website for the 5:30. But if not, I'll see some of you tomorrow at 1 o'clock, and we can discuss it. All right, cheers, guys. Take care.